I can still smell it. 14 years later, I can still smell burning pine mixed with something else, something wrong, like wet dog hair and copper and smoke, all combined into one scent that shouldn't exist, and I can't hear out of my left ear anymore. The tympanic membrane ruptured from the heat and pressure that night. The VA says it's permanent, small price to pay for being alive, they tell me. But every time someone asks what happened, I lie. Tell them it was the fire, just the fire. Heat exposure, occupational hazard. I don't tell them about what climbed my tower, what stood outside my door for 6 hours while the forest burned, what left a stone on my desk that was cold as ice while everything else was hot enough to blister skin. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 41 years old. And in September 2020, I spent a night trapped in a fire lookout tower with something that walked through flames, like you and I walk through rain. This is what really happened on Hager Mountain. If you've ever been near a wildfire, if you know that specific fear when you smell smoke and can't see the source, subscribe to this channel right now, because what I'm about to tell you isn't a distant observation. This is survival. This is what it feels like when something that shouldn't exist decides you're in its territory and it wants you gone. September 2020. The summer of smoke, we called it in the wildfire community. I'd been a fire lookout for 11 years. Started the job at 26, right after my 3rd tour in Afghanistan. Honorable discharge, PTSD that made crowds impossible. The VA therapist suggested isolated outdoor work. A buddy told me about fire lookouts, said it was perfect for guys like us, alone, clear mission, watch for smoke. Report coordinates, save lives. No moral ambiguity, just fire or no fire. I was good at it, really good. By 2018, they assigned me to Hager Mountain Lookout in the Fremont-Winema National Forest, Southern Oregon, one of the most remote towers in the state, built in 1930 by the CCC. 7,300 feet elevation, 42 miles from the nearest town, no electricity, no running water, propane stove, solar panels for the radio, an Osborne firefinder from 1952 that still worked perfectly, and an outhouse that was a 50-foot walk from the tower base. I loved it. 2 seasons there, knew every ridge visible from my windows, every canyon, every lightning strike pattern, my tower, my mountain, my territory. Summer 2020 started bad and got worse. By August, the entire West was burning. Over 30 major fires in Oregon alone. The sky turned orange. Ash fell like snow. You could stare directly at the sun through the smoke, just a dull red disk. On August 27th, I spotted new smoke. 3 miles northeast. Lightning strike, I reported it. They called it the Bray Creek Fire. All crews are committed elsewhere. Monitor and advise. I watched it grow. 15 acres. 200. By September 10th, over 18,000 acres. A full campaign fire with incident management teams and crews from across the country. And it was coming west, toward Hager Mountain, September 14th. The fire was 5 miles out. I could see the smoke column from my tower, 40,000 feet tall, dark gray, the orange glow at the base, visible even in daylight. Dispatch called. Prepare for possible evacuation within 72 hours. I wasn't evacuating. This was my tower. I'd never abandoned a post in the army. Wasn't starting now. That night, I watched the glow intensify. By midnight, the fire had reached Telephone Ridge, 4 miles away. I could see individual trees torching. Crown fire, the most dangerous kind, jumping from treetop to treetop faster than anyone could run. I grabbed my binoculars. Started documenting fire behavior. That's when I first saw it. Movement in the active burn zone. Too big for an animal, too purposeful for a falling tree. I focused the binoculars. Something was walking through the crown fire. Upright, maybe 9 feet tall. Moving through flames that were consuming everything around it. Not running, walking, like it was taking a goddamn stroll. I watched for 15 seconds before smoke blocked my view. Heat mirage, I told myself. Tired eyes. You've been watching fire for 12 hours. But I knew what I'd seen. I didn't report it. What would I say? That Bigfoot was taking a walk through a wildfire? I'd be off this tower by morning. Psych eval. Career over. So I kept watching, and I kept my mouth shut. September 15th. Dawn. The fire had made a massive overnight run. It was now less than 2 miles from my tower. I could feel the heat through the windows. The thermometer inside my cabin read 84 degrees at 6 a.m. I radioed dispatch with observations. Fire is within 2 miles of your position. Recommend immediate evacuation. I looked at the wall of flame advancing up the slope. Spot fires starting ahead of the main front from wind-blown embers. Negative. I want to document this fire behavior. This isn't a request. Evacuate now. It's defensible space around my tower. I'll leave if it gets too close. But this data is valuable. The incident commander came on the line. Webb, evacuate within 2 hours. That's an order. Copy. 2 hours. I had 2 hours to see what was going to happen. The heat inside the cabin climbed. 92 degrees, 98. My water bottles were warm to the touch. The metal on my binoculars was too hot to hold with bare hands. At 8:47 a.m., I saw it again, 1 mile out, moving parallel to the fire front, staying in the burn zone. I grabbed the binoculars, wrapped my shirt around the metal to hold them. It was the same figure from last night. But now I could see details. 9 feet tall, maybe taller, covered in dark reddish-brown hair that hung in thick matted clumps, broad shoulders, arms that reached past its knees, moving with a gait that was human but wrong, too fluid, too powerful, and it was carrying something, a long branch, blackened, still smoking, holding it like a staff. It stopped, turned its head, looked directly up the mountain, directly at my tower. Even through binoculars, even from a mile away, I could see its face, flat, broad, heavy brow ridge, eyes that caught the light, intelligent, aware. It raised the branch, pointed it at my tower. Then it turned and walked deeper into the flames, into an area where the fire was so intense the trees were exploding, heat so extreme I could see distortion in the air, and it just walked in, like walking into cool water on a summer day. The hair didn't burn, the skin didn't blister. It disappeared into an inferno that should have killed anything living in seconds. I stood there shaking. The tower was vibrating from the wind the fire created. Embers landed on the roof with soft thumping sounds. My radio crackled. "Hager Mountain, your 2 hours are up. Evacuate now." I looked at the fire, less than a mile away now, moving fast. I grabbed my pack, started for the stairs, then I stopped. Something felt wrong. A feeling I'd learned to trust in combat. The hair standing up feeling that means threat. I went back to the window, looked down at the base of my tower, and it was there, standing at the edge of the clearing, maybe 300 feet from my tower, fully visible in the firelight, staring up at me. It was massive, had to be 9.5 feet tall, maybe 800 pounds, covered in thick hair that looked wet, matted, streaked with ash and something darker. Its face was, God, I can still see it, almost human, but flatter, broader. The eyes were too far apart, the mouth too wide, but intelligent. So intelligent it made my skin crawl. We stared at each other for maybe 10 seconds. Then it started walking toward my tower, not rushing, not charging, walking, deliberate, purposeful. I grabbed my radio. "Dispatch, I have a situation. There's something at my tower, something big. I need..." The figure reached the base of my tower, grabbed one of the support beams, and started to climb. I could hear it, the creak of wood under enormous weight, the scrape of something against the tower structure, heavy breathing, low sounds that weren't quite animal but weren't human either. It was coming up. I dropped the radio, ran to the door. It was just a wooden door with a simple latch, nothing that would stop something that size. I looked around frantically. The cabin was 12 by 12 feet, nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. I was 40 feet up with fire surrounding the base of the mountain and something climbing toward me. The tower shook. Whatever was climbing was heavy. The whole structure swayed slightly with each movement. I could hear it getting closer, the breathing louder, and something else, a smell. That smell I mentioned, wet fur and copper and smoke and something else. Something wrong. It reached the platform outside my door. I heard the metal catwalk groan under the weight. Then silence. I stood there, pressed against the far wall, flashlight in one hand, worthless against whatever was out there. Then it knocked. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the wooden door. Not scratching, not pounding, knocking like a person, like something asking permission to enter. I didn't breathe, didn't move. The knocking came again, 3 more times, harder, then a sound I'll never forget as long as I live. A voice, deep, rough, like rocks grinding together, but trying to form words. Out! One word, barely intelligible, but unmistakable. It wanted me out of the tower, out of its territory. I didn't answer, couldn't. My throat had closed up with fear. The door handle rattled, testing. The latch held, but barely. That door was built to keep out weather, not something that could probably tear it off the hinges. Then the tower shook violently. It was doing something to the structure, rocking it, testing its strength. I fell to my knees, grabbed onto the desk, bolted to the floor. The shaking stopped. Footsteps on the catwalk, circling the tower, walking around the entire platform. Then it stopped at the south window, the one facing the fire. I could see its silhouette through the glass, massive, backlit by the orange glow of the approaching fire. It pressed its hand against the window. The glass flexed inward. I could see the hand clearly. 5 fingers, palm, but huge, easily twice the size of mine, covered in thick hair. It stayed there for maybe 15 seconds, then it pulled back and walked back to the door. This time it didn't knock, it just waited. I could hear it breathing, heavy, steady, patient. The heat inside the cabin was unbearable now. 108 degrees. I was soaked in sweat. My vision was blurring from dehydration. The fire was maybe half a mile away. I could hear it roaring, trees exploding, the wind screaming. I was trapped, fire on one side, that thing on the other. And then something happened that still doesn't make sense. The temperature started to drop, not outside. Outside was getting hotter, but inside the cabin the temperature dropped. Fast. 108, 102, 96, 90. I watched the thermometer fall. Impossible. Physics doesn't work that way. You can't have a cold pocket inside a hot zone, but it was happening. The breathing outside the door changed, slower, almost content. And then I heard it leave. Footsteps descending the tower, heavy, deliberate, getting fainter. I waited, didn't move for maybe 10 minutes. Then I crawled to the window, looked out. It was gone, the clearing was empty, just smoke and heat waves and the approaching fire. But on my desk, next to the Osborne firefinder, was something that hadn't been there before. A stone, river rock, about the size of my fist. I touched it. It was cold. It was ice cold. Frost formed on it where my fingers touched. In a cabin that had been over 100 degrees 5 minutes ago. I grabbed it, shoved it in my pack, and ran. The evacuation was chaos. Down the tower stairs that were too hot to touch. My left hand blistered before I'd gotten 10 feet. Down the rocky trail with fire on 3 sides, spot fires crossing ahead of me. My left ear started hurting. Sharp pain, like an ice pick. The heat and pressure were too much. Something burst. Fluid ran down my neck. The pain was excruciating, but I kept running. I made it to my truck. Engine started, drove through smoke so thick I couldn't see the hood of my vehicle. Trees falling across the road behind me, flames crossing in front. I made it to the highway, kept driving. Didn't stop until I was in Lakeview, 30 miles away. The fire consumed Hager Mountain Lookout 4 hours later. The structure that had stood for 90 years was gone. Nothing left but the stone foundation and melted metal. I spent 3 days in the Lakeview Hospital, 2nd-degree burns on my left hand, ruptured eardrum, severe dehydration, smoke inhalation. The doctors asked what happened. I told them I waited too long to evacuate, got caught in the heat. Pure stupidity. They believed me. Why wouldn't they? I didn't mention the thing that climbed my tower, didn't mention the knocking or the voice or the impossible cold or the stone. I still have that stone, keep it in a safe deposit box in Bend. I check on it every few months. It's still cold, not frozen, just cold. Room temperature should be 68 degrees. This stone stays at 42 degrees, always. I've shown it to one person, a geologist friend from my army days. He tested it, ran every analysis he could think of. Volcanic rock, common in Oregon. But Marcus, I can't explain the temperature. There's no chemical process that would keep it cold like this. No radioactive decay, no endothermic reaction. It's just cold. It shouldn't be, but it is. I took it back. Never showed anyone else. I didn't go back to fire lookout work. Couldn't. Every time I thought about climbing a tower, I'd remember the sound of that thing ascending. The breathing outside the door, the hand on the window. I took a desk job with the Forest Service. Fire prevention education, community outreach, safe, boring, no towers, but I couldn't stop researching. I dug through old fire reports, lookout logs, incident records going back decades, and I found something, a pattern I'd missed before. Hager Mountain has a history. The Tillamook Burn, one of the worst fires in Oregon history, over 350,000 acres. In the incident reports, I found a note from a lookout named Samuel Bright, who was stationed at Hager Mountain during the fire. September 2nd, fire approaching from northeast. He observed large figure moving through active flame, appeared to be directing fire spread, reported to supervisor, was told to evacuate immediately and seek medical attention for heat exposure. Bright was removed from duty, sent to a psychiatric facility in Portland. He spent the rest of his life insisting he saw something in that fire. Died in 1956, still maintaining his story. The Darlene Fire, over 28,000 acres. A hotshot crew working near Hager Mountain found tracks. The crew boss, a man named Robert Keller, documented them. Tracks approximately 22 inches in length, bipedal, found in area of complete fuel consumption. Ground temperature estimated at over 300 degrees. Tracks led from burn into unburned forest. His report was filed and forgotten. When I called him, he's 78 now, living in Grants Pass, he said, "I know what I saw. Those weren't human, weren't bear, and they were fresh, made after the fire came through. The Toolbox Complex, over 90,000 acres. Multiple lookouts reported seeing anomalous thermal signatures in active fire zones. A Forest Service investigation found what they called structures in burned areas. Dome-shaped formations constructed from fire-hardened wood, purpose unknown. The investigation was classified. I found references in archived emails, but all the photos and evidence have disappeared. And I found something else. Something that made everything click into place. The Klamath tribes, the indigenous people who lived in this area for thousands of years before we showed up. They have stories. Old stories about beings they called the Firewalkers. I contacted a Klamath elder named Joseph Running Bear, told him I was researching historical fire ecology, didn't mention what I'd seen. He invited me to his home in Killaquin, made me coffee. And then he told me things he said most white people wouldn't believe. My grandfather told me about the Firewalkers, said they've been here since the time before time. They don't fear fire like we do. They use it, guide it. The old-growth forests you see now, those are shaped by fire. But not random fire, purposeful fire. The Firewalkers manage the land. They burn what needs to burn, clear what needs to clear. Create habitat for the animals they share the forest with. They've been doing it for thousands of years. Then white people came, started fighting fires. Stopped the burning cycles. The forests grew thick, unnatural. The Firewalkers retreated deeper, waited. Now the fires are coming back, bigger than before because we stopped them for so long, and the Firewalkers are reclaiming their territory, taking back what was always theirs. He looked at me hard. "You've seen one, haven't you?" I didn't answer. He nodded. "They usually avoid people. But if you're on their mountain during their burn, They'll make sure you know it's time to leave. They're not cruel. They just want their land back. I asked him what I should do with what I knew. He smiled, sad, knowing. What can you do? Who will believe you? The forest is burning again. The cycles are returning. The firewalkers are returning. That's the way it's supposed to be. Just be grateful it let you leave. I'm 41 years old, he won. I've spent the last 4 years trying to make sense of what happened on Hager Mountain. I can't hear out of my left ear anymore. Permanent reminder of the heat and pressure that night. The VA says it's service-related. They don't know how right they are. I carry that cold stone with me sometimes. Touch it when I need to remember it was real. Not heat exhaustion, not hallucination, real. And every fire season, I watch the reports, see where the big fires are burning, and I wonder if anyone else is seeing what I saw. If any other lookouts are trapped in their towers with something outside that shouldn't exist. I hope they make it out. I hope they stay quiet like I did, because the moment you report something like this, you're done. Career over, credibility gone. You become the crazy Bigfoot guy. But I'm done staying quiet about this, because here's what I think is true, based on what I saw, based on what I've researched, based on what Joseph Running Bear told me. There's something living in the remote mountains of the Pacific Northwest, something that's adapted to fire, uses it, directs it, has been doing it for thousands of years. We see wildfire as disaster, as destruction, as something to fight and suppress. They see it as tool, as cycle, as home. And the more we suppress fire, the bigger the eventual burns. The bigger the burns, the more territory they reclaim. We're not in control of these forests. We never were. And now, after 100 years of fire suppression, creating fuel loads that were never meant to exist, the forests are burning hotter and bigger than any time in recorded history. And something is walking through those flames, reclaiming land, rebuilding habitat, taking back what was always theirs. They're not monsters, they're not demons, they're just there, have been all along. We just weren't looking. If this story made your skin crawl, if it made you think twice about what might be moving through wildfire zones, hit that like button right now. Then drop a comment below and tell me, where are you watching from? Have you ever seen something in wildfire that you couldn't explain? Have you ever been near a fire and felt like something was watching you? I read every single comment, and I need to know if anyone else has experienced what I did. Now here's the important part. If you want to hear more stories from people who work in the wilderness and encounter things that shouldn't exist, things that challenge everything we think we know about what lives in these forests, you need to subscribe to this channel. Click that subscribe button right now and make sure you turn on the notification bell so you don't miss tomorrow's story. We're uploading a new encounter every day and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Don't just watch, subscribe. Hit the bell. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. And if you ever work a fire lookout tower and something climbs up to your door in the middle of the night, don't open it. Just wait. And hope it decides to let you leave. Because it could kill you in seconds. But it won't. Not unless you refuse to go when it tells you to. The firewalkers want their land back. And eventually, they're going to get it, whether we're still here or not.